So I'd just like to begin by paying my respects to my teacher, our teacher. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So this, we're coming together with the intention of looking at the joys and challenges of monastic life. And one of the things I reflect on quite often is when I'm meeting the challenges of monastic life is challenging. It's challenging for everybody, whether you're a monastic or not. And we're very fortunate in the monastic life to have an orientation and a kind of guideline so as to channel our energy and intention in a particular direction that can be of benefit to ourselves and to other beings, potentially all beings. And there's a simple teaching in the sutras that it's a very simple teaching, and yet it's like many of those teachings, when we apply it, it's quite transformative. So I'd just like to mention it as a creating a foundation of joy from which we practice, and it's it's called the Six Recollections. So the first recollection, the recollection of the Buddha, the awakened one, and in the Theravada tradition we just think of the Buddha himself, who walked and taught in India and transformed the lives of beings. And also often people speak about the awakenedness. You can think of the awakenedness, the awakened potential within yourself. But for me, to know that there was a human being who was fully awakened and who lived and taught, it's an enormous encouragement and incentive. And recollection of the Dhamma, so the teaching of the Buddha. And there's now, with great thanks to Anandabodhi, I must say I'm frequently recollect your generosity in translating, putting up those thousands of hours into translating the sutras so that they can be available to us, those who speak and understand English. And so there's recollection of the Dhamma in terms of the teachings, being able to read the teachings, reflect on the teachings, study the teachings, and there's also recollection of the truth of the way things are, the truth of change, of impermanence, of how none of this really belongs to us or is us, and how attachment to anything in this world brings suffering, because it's an ever-changing world. So recollection of the Buddha, recollection of the Dhamma, recollection of the Sangha. So the Sangha being, there's the monastic Sangha, who gather together. Often that the word Sangha is also used for groups of people who come together with an interest to practice. And also it's recollection of the Arya Sangha, those who have awakened, either fully awakened or are on the path to awakening, both past and present. So sometimes when we're caught up in our own little world, we forget that there have been and that there are at this time those who are on the path to awakening or who have fully awakened, and just that recollection. Or there may be people in your life that you've met and you recognize, there's something really special about that person. They're radiant, they're clear, they're bright, they're not acting out of their greed and anger in the way that ordinary folks do. And so to bring them to mind, to bring them to heart, to encourage our hearts, to remind us of the potential that we all have. So recollection of the Sangha. And then recollection of virtue. So recollection of one's own virtue. And often we can be kind of hard on ourselves, down on ourselves, because we're not perfect and we haven't done it well enough and we've blown it again and we're not as good as we'd like to be. So we can be really good at recollecting the things that are wrong, but not so good at recollecting what's good. So the Buddha encourages us to recollect our virtue, recollect the times that we've held back when we wanted to do harm, and when we've acted on wholesome intentions, and that to live, within the perimeters of even the 5 precepts, as a basis, to live within the perimeters of the 5 precepts is a cause of safety to other beings. It's a way that we can bring happiness into our own lives and be a source of safety and encouragement to other beings. So to recollect our virtue, not just to get stuck in the things that are wrong and not good enough and should be better, but to really put attention and cultivate awareness around what is good that we are manifesting, and to let that be an encouragement and an incentive to do more good, to kind of purify that virtue in our own lives, to keep working on it. And recollection of generosity. So I think in Western culture we're not particularly encouraged to recollect our own generosity, and certainly in England and in the family that I came from, you don't even talk about that, you don't think about that, recollecting your own generosity. No. You can be generous, that's great, but you shouldn't talk about it or think good about it. You just pretend you didn't do it, So, but the Buddha encourages us to recollect our generosity. So we do good, and then we feel good because we've done good. We've been generous, and then it feels good. And then we remember that feeling. We bring it to heart. And then that, again, it's an incentive to do good again, to be generous again. So this and practicing this way, it starts to transform our self-perception from this little, little mess, or this little confused person, or this person with a difficult background who's really, never going to get enlightened, to a flow of generosity, a cultivation of virtue, a potential of awakening. So we start to transform this little perception of self, into something that's aligned with the stream of awakening. And the 6th recollection is recollection of devas. And I think as far as I've heard, the classical intention is to recollect how much virtue one would have to cultivate in order to be reborn as a deva. So for me that's a little bit abstract, and I don't particularly want to be a deva, so that doesn't work so well for me. But to recollect that there are other beings who are benefiting from our practice, that maybe we can't see them. And there are beings who have helped us and are helping us along the way. I certainly feel that without the support of devas, I would have probably got myself into a very big mess earlier on. But through a little bit of divine intervention, managed to get onto the monastic path and to hear the Buddha's teachings. So to recollect the devas and to share the blessings of our practice with the devas. Because if we ignore them, if we think, they're not real, they don't exist, they're not scientifically proven, therefore they can't be real, just like anything, if we ignore it, it goes away. So if we nourish and support and feed the devas with our kindness and our merits, they will reciprocate, they will be around, and they'll enjoy our company. And I also sometimes find it as an incentive if I'm alone and feeling a little bit kind of like, well, never mind, doesn't matter, whatever I do, and nobody's around, and then, well, who knows, there could be a whole host of devas around who would be inspired by wholesome action and not inspired by unwholesome action. So to recollect the devas, so recollection of the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, recollection of your virtue, recollection of generosity, and recollection of devas. So if you apply it, you'll find it brings great joy.